Hi again, family. This is day 68 of our Reading Through the Bible Together in a Year series. Today we're covering the end of the book of Joshua, chapters 23 and 24. So, a lot leading up until this point. An entire book of Joshua and the Israelites going in the promised land, wiping out the nations that God said are doing evil and need to be wiped out so that they don't affect you, Israel, and so they don't have a greater effect on the world around you. And so there's been a lot of that, and over the past few days, lots of allotment and giving different lands and tribes and cities to different people. And so there's just been a lot of technical things and where people are and the cities for the priests and the cities of refuge where somebody who accidentally kills somebody can flee to this city and have protection because they didn't mean to do it. So just a lot of stuff in the book of Joshua. But let's just see how it ends today. After many days, when Yahweh had given rest to Israel from their enemies all around, and Yehoshua was old and well advanced in years, Yehoshua called for all Israel, for their elders and for their heads, and for their judges and for their officers, and said to them, I am old and well advanced in years. You have seen all that Yahweh your God has done to all these nations because of you, for it is Yahweh your God who has fought for you. Behold, I have allotted to you these nations that remain, to be an inheritance for your tribes, from the Yarden with all the nations that I have cut off, even to the great sea toward the going down of the sun. Yahweh your God will thrust them out from before you, and drive them from out of your sight. You shall possess their land, as Yahweh your God spoke to you. Therefore be very courageous to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moshe, that you not turn away from it to the right hand or to the left, that you not come among these nations, these that remain among you, neither make mention of the name of their gods, nor cause to swear by them, neither serve them, nor bow down yourselves to them, but hold fast to Yahweh your God, as you have done to this day. For Yahweh has driven great and strong nations out from before you, but as for you, no man has stood before you this day. 1 man of you shall chase 1,000, for it is Yahweh your God who fights for you, as he spoke to you. Take good heed, therefore, to yourselves, that you love Yahweh your God. But if you do at all go back, and hold fast to the remnant of these nations, even these who remain among you, and make marriages with them, and go into them, and they to you, know for a certainty that Yahweh your God will no longer drive these nations from out of your sight, but they shall be a snare and a trap to you, a scourge in your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from off this good land which Yahweh your God has given you. Behold, today I am going the way of all the earth. You know in all your hearts and in all your souls that not one thing has failed of all the good things which Yahweh your God spoke concerning you. All have happened to you, not one thing has failed of it. It shall happen that as all the good things that have come on you of which Yahweh your God spoke to you, so Yahweh will bring on you all the evil things, until he has destroyed you from off this good land which Yahweh your God has given you, when you disobey the covenant of Yahweh your God, which he commanded you, and go and serve other gods, and bow down yourselves to them. Then Yahweh's anger will be kindled against you, and you will perish quickly from off the good land which he has given to you. Yehoshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem, and called for the elders of Israel, for their heads, for their judges, and for their officers, and they presented themselves before God. Yehoshua said to all the people, Yahweh, the God of Israel, says, Your fathers lived of old time beyond the river, even Terah, the father of Avraham and the father of Nahor. They served other gods. I took your father Avraham from beyond the river, and led him throughout all the land of Canaan, and multiplied his offspring, and gave him Yitzchak. I gave to Yitzchak Yaakov and Esav, and I gave to Esav Mount Seir to possess it. Yaakov and his children went down into Egypt. I sent Moshe and Aaron, and I plagued Egypt according to that which I did among them. And afterward I brought you out. I brought your fathers out of Egypt, and you came to the sea. The Egyptians pursued your fathers with chariots and with horsemen to the Red Sea. When they cried out to Yahweh, he put darkness between you and the Egyptians, and brought the sea on them, and covered them. And your eyes saw what I did in Egypt. You lived in the wilderness many days. I brought you into the land of the Amorites that lived beyond the Yarden. They fought with you, and I gave them into your hand. You possessed their land, and I destroyed them from before you. Then Balak, the son of Ziphor, king of Moab, arose and fought against Israel. He sent and called Bil'am, the son of Beor, to curse you. But I would not listen to Bil'am, therefore he blesses you still. So I delivered you out of his hand. You went over the Ardanne and came to Jericho. The men of Jericho fought against you, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, and I delivered them into your hand. I sent the hornet before you, which drove them out from before you, even the 2 kings of the Amorites, not with your sword nor with your bow. I gave you a land on which you had not labored, and cities which you didn't build, and you live in them. You eat of vineyards and olive groves which you didn't plant. Now, therefore, fear Yahweh, and serve him in sincerity and in truth. Put away the gods which your fathers served beyond the river, in Egypt, and serve Yahweh. If it seems evil to you to serve Yahweh, choose today whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. The people answered, Far be it from us that we should forsake Yahweh, to serve other gods. For it is Yahweh our God who brought us and our fathers up out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage, and who did those great signs in our sight, and preserved us in all the way in which we went, and amid all the peoples through the middle of whom we passed. Yahweh drove out from before us all the peoples, even the Amorites who lived in the land. Therefore we also will serve Yahweh, for he is our God. Yehoshua said to the people, You can't serve Yahweh, for he is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your disobedience nor your sins. If you forsake Yahweh and serve foreign gods, then he will turn and do you evil and consume you, after he has done you good. The people said to Yehoshua, No, but we will serve Yahweh. Yehoshua said to the people, You are witnesses against yourselves that you have chosen Yahweh yourselves to serve him. They said, We are witnesses. Now therefore put away the foreign gods which are among you, and incline your heart to Yahweh, the God of Israel. The people said to Yehoshua, We will serve Yahweh our God, and we will listen to his voice. So Yehoshua made a covenant with the people that day, and made for them a statute and an ordinance in Shechem. Yehoshua wrote these words in the book of the law of God, and he took a great stone and set it up there under the oak that was by the sanctuary of Yahweh. Yehoshua said to all the people, Behold, this stone shall be a witness against us, for it has heard all Yahweh's words which he spoke to us. It shall be therefore a witness against you, lest you deny your God. So Yehoshua sent the people away, each to his own inheritance. After these things, Yehoshua, the son of Nun, the servant of Yahweh, died, being 110 years old. They buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timnath Serah, which is in the hill country of Ephraim, on the north of the mountain of Gaash. Yisrael served Yahweh all the days of Yehoshua and all the days of the elders who outlived Yehoshua, and had known all the work of Yahweh that he had worked for Yisrael. They buried the bones of Yosef, which the children of Yisrael brought up out of Egypt, in Shechem, in the parcel of ground which Yaakov bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of silver. They became the inheritance of the children of Yosef. Eleazar, the son of Aaron, died. They buried him in the hill of Pinhas, his son, which was given him in the hill country of Ephraim. And there you have it, the end of the book of Joshua, Yehoshua, right before we get into the next book. So there's that big verse that we all know, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I want to put that a little bit in its context, which I think is really good and good for us to meditate on. But Joshua is speaking to all of the people of Israel about he's about to die, and he's not going to be with them to lead them anymore. And so he wants them to make a decision. And he says, Now therefore fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord, or serve Yahweh. If it is disagreeable in your sight to serve the Lord, or as this other translation I read today said, if it's evil to serve Yahweh in your eyes, choose for yourselves today whom you will serve, whether you serve the gods that your fathers served in Egypt, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you are living, Amorites and Canaanites. And then he says, but as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. And so it is good to just know that he's talking to Israel and saying, you have options. You now live here. God has done all this for you. If following Yahweh seems like the wrong idea to you, you can't be wishy-washy. You got to choose. You're going to serve somebody. Human beings serve somebody, right? We all worship something. And so if you don't serve Yahweh, you need to decide what it is you are serving. If you don't live for Yahweh, what are you living for, and what makes you think it's worth living for? And then and these people, they respond and they say, no, we want to serve Yahweh. We've seen all the good things that he's done, all the people that he's wiped out or gone before us and driven out of the land. We see the signs and wonders from Egypt. Like, we want to serve Yahweh. And then Joshua says, you won't be able to. You're not going to be able to serve him. And this is interesting because he's both calling them to serve him and saying at the same time, you won't be able to do it. And he says here, he's a jealous God. He will not forgive your transgressions or your sins if you forsake the Lord and serve foreign gods, and he will turn and do you harm and consume you after he has done good to you. I think it's just, I don't know. This is a passage that I want to think about myself and think about what it means for our modern context. You're not going to be able to do it. God calls you to be a certain way. God calls you to serve him faithfully. God calls you to live by a certain moral and ethical code. You won't be able to do it. You won't be able to do it. That doesn't mean don't do it. That just means you won't be able to do it. And there's a fine line there. You're not able to do this. And if you turn away from God and you don't worship him and you don't serve him, there's no forgiveness for you. And I think that totally speaks into the New Testament context. Is like, the whole point is Jesus says, I'm the way. Seek after me, follow me, and life will be yours. And that's like, forgiveness is for those who want it. But in order to want forgiveness, you need to understand that you need it. You can't just be forgiven because you want to be forgiven. You are forgiven because you want to be forgiven, because you know that you need forgiveness. You know that you've done something wrong. You know that whatever it is that you're worshiping, whatever God, whatever status, money, pleasure, anything that you can think of, whatever God you are serving, if you're not serving Yahweh, then there's no forgiveness for all of the things that you're doing, right? When you know what's right and you don't do what's right, there's no forgiveness there. And I think that speaks volumes into our modern context. And so I just think that we're seeing it all the way back here in the book of Joshua, where he's saying, choose who you're going to serve. And the people say, we want to serve Yahweh. And he says, you won't be able to do it. He's jealous. He's a jealous God. And he won't forgive you if you serve other gods. And they say, no, we're going to. We're going to serve him. We're going to serve Yahweh. We will listen to his voice. And so Joshua says, well, you're a witness to yourself. I hit snooze. I hope that wasn't 9 minutes. Sorry, that got me off track. But breaking it down, this idea that Joshua says, pick God, pick Yahweh, and you won't be able to serve him, but you need to pick him anyway, because if you choose other gods, there's no forgiveness for your sins. And that, to me, is a Jesus concept right there in the books of Joshua. And we know that the next step that we're going to get into tomorrow, the book of Judges, or Shophatim, is that the people are not going to be following Yahweh and they're going to bow down to other gods. So I hope I've given you something to think about, and hopefully haven't distracted you too much by my alarm going off. But take that with you. Think about that for today, as you have a wonderful day.